To celebrate the start of the season, we've teamed up with Sky Bet. Sky Bet understands the emotional roller coaster that's being a football fan. It will lift you up, break you down, and stitch you back together with hope. But we'll do it all again next week, because for all the pain of a looming relegation or missed penalty, there's nothing quite like the absolute scenes of a last-minute winner. Not for everyone, for the fans. Sky Bet 18+, gambleaware.org. Football's back, and who says you can't look at the league table after the first game of the season? Because Grimsby Town are top of it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to 4-Tier Fever. The football's back. Some talking points, some refereeing decisions, a couple of goalie howlers, if I can even say that right, and one very impressive team wearing black and white, and not so much one wearing in white. That's, of course, I'm getting on. We're joined by Luke and Jack for this one. I nearly forgot who you two were. Opening day weekend, how did you find it?
I mean, it happened. A bit anticlimactic, to be honest, but I mean, it's nice to be back. At the very least, see some of our new players, like Aaron Collins, who would normally score hat-tricks in 5 minutes, but obviously didn't this time, but we move.
Yeah. All right for us. I think I've recovered from the highs and lows of Saturday. I think I'm now slightly more reserved. Obviously, it's game 1 of 46. There's plenty more action still to come. So fingers crossed.
No. Well, don't bring me down. I'm enjoying this at the minute. I just want to stay on this horse for as long as I can, without being knocked down to reality. Although I like to think that won't happen at Harrogate next week. Although I don't like us playing Harrogate. We never do well against Harrogate. So
Neither do Bristol Rovers.
I feel like no one ever does.
Neither do them. Before we start, make sure you subscribe. That'd be great. And make sure you download the pods wherever you get them from. Thank you for the support on the channel recently. Let's start then, shall we? New season is very much here. Some highs, some lows, and we're looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly. And MK Dons have started with a goalless draw at home to Oldham Athletic. Now, I did tell you, or in fact, I'm not sure if I did, but I did tell the chat that every drop point MK had this season is going to be criticised to the full. Yes, it's a point opening day, and they've had 0 shots on target again. We saw that quite a few times last season. So already, that should be it for Paul. I think I'm going a little bit too far there, but a draw to start the season. I mean, Oldham Athletic have just come up. Obviously, the weight of expectation that MK have this season, as much as they did last season, you start with a draw.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't hate it after our start to last season, because you may remember that we were like 2-0 down to Bradford in like 4 minutes or something last time. So in that regard, it's an improvement. And, well, also another clean sheet. And we are still, like 5 games into Paul Warren's reign, we are still yet to concede a goal under Paul Warren. So that's still a nice little stat that we've got. Obviously, the only problem now is the lack of goals in this game. But, like I said, the performance wasn't all that bad. I think Oldham could have played another 90 minutes and not scored against us. That was never a problem, which is nice. We're being a lot more resolute at the back. So like seeing some of the recovery runs of our midfielders and some of our forwards as well, actually, at times. It was quite nice to see. It's just going forward. It's the case we had a few nearly moments here and there. You can kind of see what we're trying to do. I think we played about 27 crosses into the box, if I remember correctly, something like that. But the completion rate on those was obviously extremely low. And it was just their centre-backs winning everything, to be honest. So there's obviously work to be done still. But, I'm prepared to give it time. Ultimately, it's a new look attack, isn't it? We've got 6 new senior players in. 4 of them are strikers, 3 of them started, and the other one came on. So it's definitely not time for panic buttons or anything ridiculous like that. We've got a nice starting point that we can work with, and I think as long as we're starting to work towards solutions to beat these sort of physical teams, which we'll get a chance to do against Barrow, then I think we'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think in terms of the game, obviously Mickey Mallon, I always think builds it. The way they lined up, it felt very much like a National League style, and I say that in terms of I always believe that the National League to win, you need that physicality, you need that power to win those duels, and I mean they won more than half of the duels in that game. So they were fairly dominant in that aspect. Attack wise, they may be more structured, but I don't think it was ever going to be a game where Oldham were going to be playing free flowing football and desperately trying to score. I think you're up against the big favourite on opening day as a newcomer to the league. You need to protect yourself and you need to protect at least a point. And to be fair, they got the only shot of the game, so they were doing all right in terms of attacking, but they were picking their moments fairly finely. I think it's an exciting start for Oldham. I think obviously in terms of MK, and I'm going to be slightly kind to Luke here and say that when you're a favourite in a league, it can be very tough because every team that comes up against you, it's their Wembley. I think MK are undoubtedly favourites by a long stretch, and so every single team will be dying to beat you.
It'll be this year though, won't it? You see the players that they brought in, the calibre of names, as much as the money they've spent. It's a case of right, okay, especially if you go to Stadium MK, 30,000 seat stadium, something like that, near enough. It is the big occasion. It can be a big occasion for some teams, and I get it with Oldham, especially them, obviously just coming up from non-league as well. I think as much as I didn't win the game, it didn't look like there was much in it. I mean, stat-wise, it didn't look like a pretty game to say the least. But Oldham, to start with, I think you probably look at MK, the first game of the season. You probably see the fixtures and see the players that they've signed. Probably might be a little bit of a daunting aspect, but they must be really pleased with that. Certainly for their first outing.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
I've got to say I respect their game plan. To be fair, they showed up. They were very physical. Both of their centre backs were very dominant in the air, as was Mike Fondop at the other end. And to be fair, I think in the entire time that Jack Sanders has been at Dons, I don't think I've ever seen anyone win more aerial duels than him. So that kind of tells you how good Oldham are from that kind of perspective. They didn't have much beyond that, and I think their one shot on target was feeble. But respectfully, I think I could have saved it because it was straight at McGillivray. But they did have some sort of resemblance of a strong game plan there, and I think against other sides it could potentially work. Obviously, we tried to test their defence with as many crosses as possible. Didn't quite work. Nearly got in behind a couple of times, and I am going to mention it. We probably maybe 100% should have had a penalty when Daniels brought down Collins and injured him for the second half. But, don't want to bring up the refs too much because obviously there's more to go for us to work on in terms of the attack. And like I said, I think he'll get there because, you guys have mentioned, oh yes, with all these big name signings, we know there's goals in the team because of how many goals they got last season, each of them. So I've got plenty of faith that it will come good.
Yeah, I think that it always will come good. But as I say, it's going to be everyone's big occasion. So whether MK themselves can deal with that pressure, you've got to. I think there's games, and I'm sure we'll touch on it eventually in terms of our game. It sort of felt a little bit. Everyone was at 80%. I think when you're coming up against MK Dons, MK have to be 100% every single game. They can't afford a day off because obviously the opposition's going to change and they're all going to be at 100% because they want to beat MK. So we'll wait and see. But I think it's as long as you don't lose on the opening day, I think that's always a happy outcome. I think you're not starting positively, but you're not starting negatively either, and that can help going forward, especially with a new manager and a new squad settling in.
I think it's certainly a case for certainly some clubs more than others. Certainly more to come. I think that's certainly the case in both sides, to be honest. But and certainly in MK's case, of course, 0 shots on target. Let's make that next step up to 1. And maybe I might even score. Well, no, I think it's a bit hard. But yeah, you know what I mean. Little steps at a time. It's not always, you're probably not always going to get the best start you hope for. But as long as you don't, make a little bit of a mockery of it, like sort of Crawley did yesterday, but we'll get onto it. You set yourself up. You're not doing too badly to start with. I don't think, looking at the game just on start-wise, it didn't look like the best. We'll save the penalty talk because I want to come back to it because there's a lot to talk about in regards to that field. Let's go to the high first. I was going to go to Bristol Rovers, but I want to go to the Barnet game. Obviously, Barnet also making their return to the EFL. I know they played in the other night. That Newport game, very good comeback only to lose on penalties. They lost 2-0 to Fleetwood. Will Davis and Elliot Bonds scoring in both halves to give the Cods a 2-0 victory. Now, very good win for Fleetwood. Excellent start to the season. Their first goal was certainly a gift. Certainly not one that Owen Evans will want to look back on. Look, I think we'll discuss Dean Brennan's thoughts in a little bit, but he can't say that he wasn't warned because he did that before previously and he just about got away with it. It's a really poor error. There's no way of sugarcoating it. It's a heavy touch and it's just, Will Davis. I mean, it's a proper striker's instincts to still get that. But it's really poor from him. And then that second half, I mean, Bonds it's a good finish from Bonds, to be fair. And fist pumps are back.
They absolutely are. And I've got to say, I think as far as opening day games go, this is probably one of the more interesting ones. There seem to be more chances for both sides, really. I think the quality of Fleetwood's chances were, evidently pretty good because they scored a couple of them. But no, I think this was probably one of the more open games. I think I know Dean Brennan wasn't necessarily happy with that performance and particularly his keeper, but I feel like there was a lot of potential in both sides. Like, there's nothing that worries me too much just yet from either of his teams, really. And if anything, I think Fleetwood in particular looked really promising, and you can tell they've got quite a nice, stable squad, despite starting a couple of their new additions on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm really excited by Fleetwood. I think overall they're an exciting side. I don't perhaps think they showed a great deal of it, even though they won 2-0 yesterday. But I think Barnet impressed. I mean, dominated possession and also had more shots. Fleetwood just really were clinical and took their chances. I think that's what you expect from their attackers. I mean, obviously, the first one was a gift, and the other one obviously wasn't an attacker. But overall, the strikers they've got at their disposal, you would expect them to be clinical. Like I say, a good job for Fleetwood, really. In terms of the keeper, I understand that, but I think you've just got to support him. Obviously, all the comments about him coming in late and everything, you've got a keeper on the bench that was your first choice in the National League, and he played 90 minutes, as far as I'm aware, in the Carabao Cup. If you're saying he's not had the time to start and not had all this time and all the rest of it, then play your first choice keeper what was the first choice keeper last season and let him settle in a bit more and have a bit more training, would be my thought. But obviously he's thrown him in and obviously an unfortunate error straight away.
Yeah, I think I've never really understood how straight to the point Dean Brennan is in his interviews. Like, I know he had that one last season, that one that's gone viral, how the team needs to show a bit more character and the way they did and how they lacked it. It went pretty viral. And we was all talking about at the time, oh, how great that is. And yeah, to some extent it was. I've listened to these last two interviews from the Newport and the Fleetwood game, and some of the stuff he's got. Would you want to play for a manager that maybe has that style? Maybe it's not all the time. Maybe, I mean, he's had success with Barnet quite recently, and that's nothing to be glossing over. But what, if it's going well, I think you could probably get on board with it a bit more. I mean, saying that it's first game, maybe harsh lessons, maybe a few that Barnet have had to learn these past couple of games, and I think they'd have learned a lot from it. It's not like they've been bad in those games either. They've had lots of shots, had loads of possession, have created loads of chances. They'll still come good. I've got no doubts about that, but it's just his approach. I'm not sure it sits right with me, but you can half see how it's worked for them, as it's clearly worked for them in the past.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think honesty can be a good tool in when it's used in as towards the media, but you have to do it in the right way. There's being direct and saying, "Oh yeah, we weren't good enough today," and all the rest of it. But when you're getting to the point where you're singling out a player and giving X reason, Y reason as to why he's not good enough or why he's underperformed or anything like that, when you're singling someone out like that, you risk alienating your own players. I think that's something we saw a little bit at Dons, really, under Lindsay, who immediately targeted a couple of players and they were never heard from again. And then supposedly got on the wrong side of Dean Lewington, and that's something you don't do at MK Dons if you want to actually stay there. But I think there's a real risk at Barnet that if Dean Brennan carries on in that sort of style, he's got a real chance of alienating his squad again, and it's not going to be as easy as it was for them last season. They'd obviously built up towards that promotion. They're going to have momentum, of course, but it's a tougher league, and they're going to face much tougher challenges. It's not just going to be this one Fleetwood game where Fleetwood have played well. There's going to be tons of other teams that will go there and really take the fight to them. So I don't know. I think he's got to be a bit more patient, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, obviously the keeper's not a young lad. 28, I think he is. He'll know how to deal with it. He'll get up and dust himself off and go again, and I'm sure it's not knocked him terribly. I do think just putting someone under the bus on the first day just feels slightly of an unusual tactic. Usually people are building connections, building relationships within the team, and it sort of feels like he's trying to break them on the first day. But I mean, I was having a little look through the keeper's stats, and obviously he joined on loan in January. Joined Barnet on loan in January last season. So obviously Dean and the keeper knows each other well, and he liked Dean's style of managing to join back in the summer. So maybe they built up that relationship where they can have that aspect. But I think just to the public, from an outside perspective, it seems a bit unusual. And it can work, and I'm sure it will. And I appreciate it's just another way of coaching, but I think maybe slightly too soon, too early. I think we needed a little lie down and a bit of an easier way into the start of the season rather than coming straight at someone. But he must be okay with it.
Yeah, whether that's his style, maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm looking forward to learning a bit more about Dean Brennan. But it's the sort of thing in which I wouldn't want any of my managers saying that. It's the sort of thing you just keep in house. That's all I've really got to say on it, really. Let's have a look at Bristol Rovers. Obviously, a side that have come down. Harrogate at home. Harrogate won. Harrogate know what they are. They're a side that can go away from home at places like that. Bristol Rovers just come down, good crowd, fair bit of expectation from them, and get a smash and grab win. I think I've probably got about it the right way about it. Stephen Duke McKenna with a lovely finish, I've got to say, from the on the left after the is it Muller that left him onside? Yeah, very good win for Harrogate. I've got to say, I don't think many people gave them a chance going into it, other than one person, of course.
I'm absolutely beaming with that. Yeah, I mean, obviously I said it on the preview, and I think I proved pretty much bang on the money. I said they're a really frustrating team to play against, and they are. I mean, you look at the stats here. Harrogate had 41% possession. They had 7 shots to Bristol Rovers 17. But they had more on target, and they're so solid in defence. And it can be so annoying because it can sometimes feel like one after the other, just constantly shooting against them and constantly getting into those attacking positions, but you just can't quite get the finishing touch. And I think having a superb goalkeeper obviously helps. But they're just so defensively solid. And if they can nick a goal, and I'm sure they will so many times this season, they're the kind of performances that keeps Harrogate in this league. Because of that nature to just be so strong, they can just grind out results.
Well, yeah, I mean, fair play to them. They soaked up a lot of pressure there, and I mean, I love the finish as well from Stephen Duke McKenna, absolutely sublime. Uh, but then I do also think there is an element of Bristol Rovers potentially not being as clinical as they could be, because they still did have a lot of chances that they probably should have done better with. I know Ellis Harrison had one right at the end where he hit the post, but there were quite a few others as well. You know, of those 17 shots, only 2 were on target. So they only got 2 more on target than we did, and we didn't have any. So, you know, like the keeper didn't have to do all that much, really, did he? But no, credit to Harrogate for that. It's just, I think there's going to be another level to Bristol Rovers. Like, I think a lot of these teams that we expect to have this sort of attacking output haven't necessarily started in like top form as such. You wouldn't necessarily expect that. You know, these are the first competitive minutes of the season. You know, there are going to be a lot more goals from that Bristol Rovers side, and I think you could say the same about us. You could say the same about Notts County as well. A lot of these sides are generating chances or getting into the right positions. It's just not quite clicking just yet. But give it a few games, and I think things will start to take shape a little bit more.
17 shots, 2 on target. Sorry, Jack. 17 shots, 2 on target is what I'm seeing for Bristol Rovers. Certainly a case of they need to be a little bit more clinical. I wonder, I'm really intrigued with that striker they brought in. He's from Switzerland, I think, and his name escapes me, and I do apologise. It looks like he has a very good goal record. I mean, after that show, you probably want him to hit the ground running, really, if that sort of things. But it's not like they haven't been creating chances from that, because they created a fair bit in the game, but obviously nothing went in. What was you going to say, Jack?
Yeah, I think obviously everything I've talked about Harrogate on the preview and this one, I think my message to Bristol Rovers fans would be to not worry. I think I've been very, very supportive of Harrogate in both, and I think I just do want to clarify that it won't be like that for the rest of the season. They're an anomaly. And I think, as I've constantly said, they're just one team that just are able to do things like that and annoy you. But I think Bristol Rovers, as much as they lost 1-0 against the team that finishes in the bottom half, will come good. And I think there's signs in that game, even though, like I say, they lost, that they will come good. Just eventually against weirdly better opposition.
Yeah, certainly agree. So I know more to come will be the same from there, but I certainly see that with Bristol Rovers. I'm certainly not concerned by them. I'm certainly not concerned by Harrogate. I never really understood for them the shouts to go down. They get to say it every year, but if they pick up results like that, there's absolutely no way they're going down. Very good result for them. A team that I am worried about after yesterday's show was Crawley Town. Yeah, of course. It's time to mention this. Grimsby Town 3, Crawley 0. Grimsby resounding winners on the day. We set the pace early on. Top of the table. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to say how long that lasts. Might be gone next week. But I'm just going to try and enjoy it as it lasts. I think over 90 minutes, for a Grimsby perspective, it was the complete performance. I don't think I could have asked for any more. I think if I'm being ultra critical of our performance, I think we could have scored a few more, truth be told. We had some very good chances in that, but 3-0 win, a penalty in which, again, we'll get on to. A couple, that's a questionable one, I think, maybe. Jace Cabby put away, very good penalty from him. Cam McJanet, very much from the training ground, that Cam McJanet goal. Short corner from Burns to Vernon, the cross straight into McJanet, bullet header, and then a very good finish from Evan Corey in the second half to wrap up all 3 points. I don't really want to pick anyone out, truth be told, because they were all excellent. Even Christy Pym, he won't have an easier afternoon all season. I don't think he's ever had an easier afternoon in his career. He could have sat there, read the newspaper, put his feet up, have a cup of tea, and I think he'd have still been all right. But in the stuff he did do, he looked very calm, composed. He was shouting a lot. Cabby excellent, Vernon excellent, McEachran excellent. Again, I think any success we have this season will be down to if we keep McEachran. He is just so good. I keep saying it. He is just terrific. Defence was unfazed. And yeah, the one thing I really wanted to see was a complete performance for it to go all the way through from minute 1 to minute 90. I know we've had it in spells quite a lot last season where we played well for a period and we got worse for another period. We don't start well and we do pick up. We've had that a few times, but we never once let a guard down. Was front foot pressing every time. We wanted to win the ball. We were hungry to win the ball. And every time we did, the amount of runners that we had going up with just pure force, and the bodies that we had up, the options we were making, it's hard to not get carried away at this sort of thing. It's what I've been wanting from a town team for a long, long time. And look, I'm really pleased with that. But for Crawley, as much as we were terrific, and we were, we proper put them to a sword. They didn't have much of an answer. I generally think Crawley are one of the worst sides that have come to Blundell Park for a good while. Disjointed is how I describe it. And I think it's hard. I think it's easy to see why. I think obviously with the business they've done and obviously Scott Lindsay's back there. The way we played football yesterday, I sort of got the impression that it was the similar type of football that Scott Lindsay team played a couple of years ago when they went up. That we were doing it to them. I love Gav Holohan to bits. It was very good with us. Give me some great moments, but you're not playing football with him. You're just not. And I questioned a lot of their players' commitment. They were poor in the ball. They were dead passive. They were dead quiet. Nobody wanted to make their mark on it. I don't think any part of that Crawley team can take any credit from that. I would be seriously worried if I was a Crawley fan watching that because they were absolutely abysmal. They were, and they've got to sort that out pretty quickly. Otherwise, there could be some real problems coming our way. It's not like you see it with Bristol Rovers. Yeah, okay, there's little bits there. We're not concerned just yet. I'm concerned watching that Crawley side yesterday, and they need to get their act together pretty quickly. But I'm not complaining with our performance. Like I said, we were excellent.
Yeah, I mean, with Crawley, it almost feels like they haven't completed pre-season yet. I mean, I have no doubt that Lindsay would have been working them to the ground and maybe they were a bit tired or whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to make excuses for them, but...
And I'm surprised for that. They looked well off the pace, sorry. They just looked well off the pace, which was not what I was expecting at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I've said frequently I don't agree with their way of business. Changing half your squad every time, and that's the difference. I think that game was the difference between a settled side with stability and a completely new side that doesn't really know how to play together just yet. And it's going to take a while for that to happen. It's not going to be, next week it'll be totally fine and put in a fantastic performance. Watch them win 3-0 now, I've said that. But that's probably not going to happen, right? Yeah, they were just so off the pace. I was looking at their defending for the goals, and particularly the third one. They're so static. So static, and you just can't defend like that at all. The only one I feel slightly bad for is the penalty because I think the keeper's a little bit hard done by for that one. But aside from that, they just had nothing. I think Shimanga was totally isolated up front. I know he had that one little chance at the end, but obviously couldn't quite get it on target, and by then it was too late anyway. So I do think there's a lot of work that needs to be done there, and I don't think there's necessarily a quick fix. Obviously, don't want to be saying, "Oh yeah, panic button after game week 1" or anything like that. But it shows that there's still a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's an absolute thumping, isn't it? And it's good to be a Grimsby Town fan, I presume, at this point in time. But I think it's difficult. It's always going to be difficult on game week 1 to understand where teams are at. I think Crawley, I echo everything you both said. I think they need 4 or 5 more weeks before they properly understand each other and relationships and how to work with each other and find those sort of sequences of play. When you're sacking your whole squad off and getting a new one, they need time to settle and sort of develop those connections. So I can only presume that that's what they're doing. But even then, they're still footballers. You can still defend better than how they did. So it is slightly worrying, but in the same aspect, I'm keeping slightly reserved, as I am with most clubs in the division at this point. I think you're looking at that game. Yes, 3-0 is a brilliant scoreline. Is that because Grimsby's a brilliant squad and are going to win the league and run away with it? Is it because Crawley's destined for relegation? Is it because Crawley's going to going to be relegated? They're destined for relegation. I'm sort of in between. Potentially just the right time to play Crawley, and the wrong time for Crawley to play a game, I guess. But we'll see if I think 5-6 weeks in, maybe 4 or 5 weeks in, we'll see if Scott Lindsay has found a way with that Crawley team.
Right, I need to calm expectations, but we're top of the league. We're top of the league. We're top of the league. Let's move on to Walsall. Very good game against Swindon. 2-1 it finished. A late goal from Connor Barrett sealing the victory there. Obviously, 10 men Swindon, 10 men Walsall as well, with Brandon Conley getting sent off. Evan Weir, that was a really good free kick from Evan Weir, by the way. Another questionable penalty, I can't lie. Again, we'll get on to it a little bit more in a little bit, but yeah, I thought it was a bit soft. Well put away from Will Wright, and then Connor Barrett Swindon just decided to ditch defending last minute and just let Connor Barrett just run through. Yeah, I'd be frustrated if I was Swindon, especially with 10 men, and obviously how it was just so easy for Walsall for that winning goal. It was just so easy. But full credit to Walsall with that as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I found this a very frustrating game, even just watching the highlights of it. There was just so many things where you're like, well, why have you done that then? And I think that kind of begins with the red card. It was such an avoidable thing. Obviously, the mix-up that caused it was just comical. But then the decision to bring the man down when you're like 20 minutes into the game, not a good idea. Like, yes, you might go a goal down. You'd probably rather just have the man back, to be honest, because you now lose yourself that, and you're not in the next couple of games now. And I think that's probably more costly in the long term. But I don't know. It's one of them. Maybe he thought he'd get away with it. I don't know. But for Swindon, just the chances they were wasting. They were so wasteful that they could have done a whole lot more. And I do think they're another one of those sides where it's like, okay, some of those chances later in the season, they probably put them away. But against 10 men, it's just so much more frustrating watching that and being like, okay, yeah, you probably should have finished that one, and probably that one as well. And yeah, to be against 10 men for that long and not score until as late as you do with a questionable penalty, and to then throw it all away again. That goal really annoyed me. That winning goal. There was 2 Walsall players running through 8 Swindon players. That shouldn't happen. I don't care if it's first game of the season. That should not happen ever. It was laughable. And I think they've made things unnecessarily hard for themselves there. Obviously, it's only first game week, but it's just not the way to start, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think after that red card, throughout the whole game, Swindon have had 74% possession, which is ridiculous against a side that was, I know we keep going on about, was top for the majority of the time last season, but also obviously I appreciate it's a brand new squad really, but still a side that has retained a couple of their good players from last season, and a squad that, in all honesty, are probably better than I've predicted them. With all due credit to them, I think that they are a good side and probably, definitely top half. Probably one of those sides that are pushing playoffs with the type of caliber of players that they've brought in recently. And I think I'd just touching on, I think Lewis Warrington is a brilliant addition. Obviously, he signed late last week. I think he'll be a really good addition to League Two. But it's the most football manager game I think I've ever seen in my life. 74% possession, 16 shots, and they concede in the 91st minute. I mean, the countless times I've had that happen. And it's a frustrating one for Swindon. But again, you can't be too disheartened when you dominate teams like that. Eventually, like you say, it'll come good eventually. And I think and somehow there's positive signs to take from a 2-1 loss. Sometimes it shows the true quality of the team, and I think I'm impressed by Swindon, and I think eventually those chances, like you say, will just start clicking, and then we'll find the back of the net, and then they'll be on a run, I'm sure. But quietly impressed with Walsall as well.
Yep, I agree. I think there's certainly some positives to take away, even though you've lost 2-1 last minute to a horrifically defended goal with 10 men with a side against 10 men as well. But as you say, they've dominated lots of the play, lots of possession, lots of chances. But Swindon are another. They're going to score loads of goals this season, like they did last season for a large part of it. Going forward, Swindon look very good, as you'd probably expect under Ian Holloway, but defensively they do have the odd moment, as we saw yesterday, where they just fall to pieces and forget what defending is. I can't go over that goal. It was embarrassing, truth be told. But I mean, Walsall kept going and they got there, and they got the 3 points. They'll be buzzing with that. Obviously, with 10 men. I mean, that Conley red card was a red card, but certainly some positives for both, even, like I said, in defeat for Swindon. Salford lost 3-1 to Crewe opening day. A comical own goal, a missed penalty, first of all. Again, we'll talk about the penalty in a little bit. A bit of a comical own goal. It was a bit of a mess. It's just come off Kadeem Harris, but he scored at the other end to equalise shortly after, but 2 goals just before half-time from Connor Thomas. Gave Lee Bell's side all 3 points. Very good result for the Railway men to kick things off.
Oh yeah, for sure, and I think that's probably the best Crewe have played. So, well, certainly for since the second half of last season, for sure. I mean that penalty. Obviously we'll talk about the decision for it to be a penalty later, but in terms of taking the penalty, it was a poor one. It's always a risk going for bottom corner. If you're gonna go for it, you've got to hit it hard or send the keeper the wrong way. You can't just kind of do something in between, because then it gets saved. Exactly what happened to Ben Woodburn there. But I mean, the first goal was very, very scrappy. I do appreciate the mentality, especially if Kadeem Harris to then turn around the own goal and go get one at the other end. But then it didn't last, and that momentum didn't last at all. And Crewe just kept coming and coming and coming. And I mean, they were really good, really, really good Crewe. I was impressed with them, and obviously I've been heavily critical when it came to predictions and all the rest of it, but got to hold my hands up. That was a very good performance. Do have concerns over Salford's defending again, like with Crawley, he's very, very static at times. But I know there's a couple of players to come back for Salford, but I'm still a little bit concerned, just slightly. Nothing major. And again, no panic buttons at this stage. Of course not. That would be ridiculous. But just a couple of things that need to be ironed out, I think.
Yeah, I think with the penalty, I think penalties are the easiest thing to score in football in terms of you just smash it. There's a certain striker that played for Tranmere, and I won't mention his name, but he just used to smash every single penalty, just absolutely thump it, and you knew he was going to, but no one could stop it, because what you're going to do, you can't move to get in the way because it's that quick and it's that powerful. And why players don't do that, I don't know. I don't know why they're trying to slowly, calmly put it in the corner, because the keeper's got time to react. And I think, how often are you going to put it right in that corner where there's no chance? I always think you just need to thump it, just hit it as hard as you can, and the keeper will move out the way. But I mean, obviously it wasn't great. I think it was a game of 2 really good attacking sides. I'm impressed with both attacking wise, but I think the defence cost Salford. I think Crewe have been really impressive. I think we all sort of didn't predict how well they would do in this first game at least. And I think it's slightly changed my mind on where they might finish. I think maybe a few other players have gone under the radar a bit, and there's still more to come into the squad. I think I have been very impressed. I think that's a good start. Sorry, against a good side in Salford as well. Obviously defensive worries for Salford, but still a really good 3 points, and I'm excited to see Crewe the season. I think they obviously, if injuries don't happen and they ride their luck with that a little bit, I think they will be a really exciting squad to watch.
Yeah, I think a couple aspects of Crewe has maybe changed my mind. Obviously, they've brought in a fair few more attacking reinforcements, and we've seen the players that they have got. I'm not denying it's a quality squad, because it is. There's some talent in there, but I mean, look, they start the season well. First win, first game. They'd be pleased with that. Maybe I'm just being dead critical. It may be the case. The fact that one spring doesn't make a summer. I still think there needs to be more. But it's an encouraging start. A couple of question marks I have over Salford, especially defending. There were poor goals, truth be told, and they could have done a lot better with. I mean, that first one was just, I don't really know where you go with that, but not quite panic stations just yet. And, unlike some other teams who have got more concerns, I'm not worried just yet. Let's have a look at Chesterfield. They kicked their season off with a win, of course, one of the favourites as well, alongside MK Dons, to do very well this season. I think we're going to be saying Dylan Markande goal a fair bit this season. Very good header from him to give the Spiros all 3 points. Didn't look like much in the game. Chesterfield on the right end of it, and that's a sort of win that you probably would want in a season. Maybe, I mean, I'm going off that sort of, they could have played absolutely brilliant, but I mean, looking at it, I mean, they have more possession, but just get the job done, and that's what they did. And again, there'll be a side that have been really pleased. Didn't look like they were troubled too much. I know that Barra had 10 shots, so they won on target in the game, but yeah, Paul Cook's men getting off to the best start. They'll be pleased.
Well, yeah, it wasn't the most exciting game, was it? Barrow, I think, are quite similar to Oldham in the sense that they're going to try and just get in the way. They're going to make it as awkward as possible. And to be fair, I think to an extent it did actually work, because for a side like Chesterfield to only have 7 shots, that's pretty good going. But then the quality of the chances, when they did eventually come, were very good. I mean, the goal on the stroke half time, great time to score, obviously. And it was a lovely move as well. And again, fantastic Markande finish. But then they also had a second very, very good chance as well. I don't know how Armando Dobra has not put that away, to be honest. It looked like quite an easy chance. Just one heavy touch got away from him a little bit. But as far as I don't know, as far as first games go, it's a relatively comfortable 1-0. There's not a crazy amount in the game. Not too much to be concerned about for either team, really. Just a solid start. Barrow can look at that performance and see there's something to build on there. I don't think they need to be disheartened at all by that.
Yeah. I think there's one or two chances, I think, for Barrow where they possibly could have took advantage and potentially nicked a point, but I don't think it's too many worries for them. I think they'll just naturally build into the season. A very meh side, I think, at the moment, but I'm sure they'll come good. It's one of them where you can just tell they're not quite ready. They're not quite 100% maybe. But still fairly competitive against a really good Chesterfield side. And obviously, like you say, Dylan Markande, I mean, you can't stop him, can you? Whether he's on the left or the right or through the middle, he'll score goals or assist goals and create chances. And I think we're going to, like I say, we're going to be expecting him to do that most games this season. And I think Chesterfield have strengthened really well from what was a strong side already last season.
Absolutely. I still can't believe they got Markande back. That's just terrific business. I think they've done terrific business to add to some of the quality that they've already got. They'll be a force this year. I've still got no doubt. I've got no doubts about that. Barrow, they'll win games. They'll be fine. As you pointed out, if that's the sort of thing that maybe they can expect. Obviously, they'll be disappointed with the defeat, but maybe a couple of encouraging signs there. And this is a Chesterfield side that like to score goals on their day. If they're firing, they're incredibly hard to stop, and they've just added to that. So, once Chesterfield get going, they'll be a real force. But I don't think there's much to be worried about at Barrow at the minute. They'll get some wins. They'll be fine. I've got no doubts about them. Let's rattle through these games very quickly, because I know we're tight for time. Colchester and Tranmere drew 1-1. It was all going so well for Tranmere. Connor Jennings with the goal on 15 minutes, done by a very late goal, a very nice goal from Kyrie Lisby to give Colchester a point in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I actually enjoyed both goals, to be fair. I love the little Tranmere move, Smallwood ball over to Norman, back across goal to Jennings. It was a nice move, and you can score a lot of goals from those sort of movements. So that's encouraging signs going forward, especially given that we know that Tranmere have had their striker problems in last season. Jack is nodding quite enthusiastically there. But no, I think this was a reasonable performance from both sides, really. Again, two teams that sort of cancelled each other out a little bit. Not necessarily either team playing at full capacity, I'd say. But then again, it's first game of the season, unless you're Grimsby, you weren't playing at full capacity. First game of the season, so there's nothing to worry about. Yeah, nothing to worry about at all. I think there's encouraging signs from both sides. A draw, at least from an outside perspective, was probably fair, but I'm sure Jack can tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, starting from a Colchester point of view, I think first half, and I'm going to be very critical, really, but Colchester fans wait to hear what I say in the second half, please. I think first half it almost looked like a first game of pre-season for them. I mean, the defender, I think it's Tom Flanagan. Every time he got the ball, he was standing there with no options around him. He was waving his arms about, trying to get someone to make an option. And it looked like they didn't know each other. I've never seen a team struggle to create chances so much. I mean, maybe they did. Maybe that's just what I've caught. But from what I saw, it just looked like they just really couldn't find passes for the life of them. I don't know. It was a really struggle. I think I'd say they were at 30-40% of the best. They were still getting used to each other, really, very much. But in the second half, absolutely kicked on, and I think they were the better side. I think potentially their fitness, I'd say, improved in the second half, but was better than us, definitely. I think we ran out of energy, ran out of steam, really, in the 70th minute, and they pegged us right back, and we just couldn't get out. And eventually, when you pepper in so many shots at the goal, one of them's going to creep its way in, and obviously it was a good finish. But I think we really limited them in the first half. I think Tranmere's got a really solid defence. Attack, like you say, still a worry, but it was a good finish, and it's the first time, like you say, it was a good move. It's the first time I've seen a move like that in years now. But I think it's a good finish, and it's a good starting point. I think there's some solid additions there that are new to this team that have improved and shown their quality. I think one of them, Taylor Harris, Aloni, had a couple of good spells, but he really came on when we were in that moment where we decided we switched to a really low block in a 5-4-1, and you can't get out when you've got a 36-year-old striker. I think he is now, Christian Dennis. He needs to either run behind or he's good at holding up the ball, and he just couldn't quite get hold of either. And so you are booting the ball up to him as soon as you defend, and then Colchester running the ball back and going straight back at you. And I think that goal always felt like it was coming, to be honest. But a good starting point. I think knowing Kenner in the midfield looks like a Sergio Busquets regen. I think he is incredible, and it's his long legs. He wins any balls that are in that midfield. He'll just slide and win them, and it's comfortable for him. I think he looks like a really good addition, and I'm really impressed. And obviously next to a calm Richie Smallwood, you can't really go wrong there. I think he's got the ability to run around and do that sort of dirty work and getting all the balls in the middle of the park. So I'm really impressed with him. I just think we need that striker, which is probably what we were lacking. Like I say, 70th minute onwards, the players looked gassed. I think the substitutions were right because they just looked out of energy and potentially slightly naive to drop back and sort of let Colchester have the game almost. But I don't think we had any other choice because of the fitness of the players. They can't run around for 90 minutes. And I think it's worth taking a point and dropping back. And obviously that being the outcome, then having the likes of a Cameron Norman injured for 3 weeks because we pushed him too hard on the first day. So I think it was a good point on the road. And I think it's something to really build on. And I'm excited. And Andy Crosby said there wasn't much technical ability. And I probably agree with him. But it's something that we're going to work on. And I think will naturally improve. So I'm not too worried about Tranmere. I think it's an exciting side. I was worried about Colchester in the first half, but second half has impressed me, and I think they'll be all right.
Decent stuff. Let's go through these games very quickly. We are pushed for time. We do want to talk about referees at some point because they are to be discussed. Cambridge, they beat Cheltenham. A goal from Luis Apere, is that his name? Giving Neil Harris's side all 3 points. I don't think many opinions on Cheltenham would have been changed in this game. Looking at it, looks like a solid enough performance from Cambridge. Certainly more to come from them. It was a pretty interesting move for the goal, but they did manage to get that goal. As I said, I don't think much changes my mind on Cheltenham at the minute. Maybe one or two things to think about on Cambridge. Recent signings have maybe suggested that, but they're a side I'm looking forward to seeing more. I'm really looking forward to having a little bit of a deeper dive into them over these next few weeks. But so I don't think they're as bad as what maybe some are saying, Kieran. So yeah, decent start for them. 1-0 home win, clean sheet. Bob's your uncle.
Wait, I mean, that and Panzu signing as soon as we release our predictions episode really annoyed me. Because I immediately regretted putting them, I think, 17th I had them. I kind of wish I put them higher, and potentially Crewe as well, because they went and signed Tesco. But anyway, no, I think Cambridge were very good, actually. It was quite a comfortable opening game. I don't think Cheltenham really offered much. I think George Miller had one relatively decent chance. Aside from that, I don't think they really offered all that much. It was just a case of if Cambridge would break them down, and they did. They got the goal. Had plenty of other ideas going forward as well. Maybe not as clinical as they'd have liked to be, but again, I think that's something that's going to come with more competitive minutes. I think there's plenty of promising signs there.
Yeah, I echo everything you both said. I think it was always a game we were going to expect Cambridge to win. They've won. They've done all right. Like I say, it's the first game of the season. I think it's a strong start for them. Cheltenham are just obviously working their way through to the takeover when and if it happens. And so it's a waiting game for them. So I don't really want to judge them in January when they've got that money to spend and have built that squad. But at the moment, good result for Cambridge.
Absolutely. Let's move on to Newport. They drew 1-1 with Notts County. A Jed Garner goal for Newport, cancelled out by a Jody Jones penalty. Another one that is a little bit, I think speaking to Kieran, he seemed pretty content with the point. I think it's what both teams will as well. It's a long way for Notts to travel. Obviously, Newport not fancied to do much this season. There's pros and cons, I think, to both. Notts County looked like they had the better of it in terms of they've had more of the ball, more shots on target, etc. But I don't think you can really complain that much with a point away from home, especially with how far to travel. Because Newport's a trek. I've done it before. I know what it feels like. I think they'll be both content with a point. I don't think it's the worst point in the world for either team.
I'd say Newport will definitely be content with a
They'll
point.
Be more happier, but I think just going off those sort of logistics, I think probably because it's first game. Will we say this throughout the season? Don't know, maybe not. But first game, you don't really know what to expect much, do you? I guess.
Well, yeah. I mean that first half was a barrage of chances from Notts, to be fair, and I think Newport did well to defend a lot of it. I tell you what, the Notts well, the Newport goal annoyed me just because to let a long throw bounce in the box. Why? Please, can we use common sense when we are defending? These are good enough players that they should know better to not let that happen. And a bit of a throwaway of a good start, to be honest. I do think they were fortunate with the penalty because to me that was outside the box, so not a penalty. And it could have been a whole lot more frustrating for Notts. But again, I think they're another one of those sides where you're looking at the amount of chances created and the quality of some of the chances created, and you're like, okay, in a few weeks' time, they're putting away some of those. It's not too problematic, although seeing that some of their starting attacking lineup was Matt Dennis and Conor Grant, and a couple of years ago they were our backup players, I'm maybe not quite as convinced as I would be with some of the other sides, but that's just from personal experience. Maybe they'll find their feet. Both do have potential, in fairness, but I'd say it's a frustrating point for Notts. Obviously, they'll take it at this stage, but it could have been more.
Yeah, I think it's a different way of working with Notts. I think you're so used to, David McCulloch coming down, you knew he was going to get the goals. Sort of areas like that, I think coming into League Two with Macaulay Langstaff, obviously his record in non-league, you knew he was going to get the goals, and obviously Jata started really well when he joined. I think lower profile players potentially starting in that attack, and I think it'll be difficult to judge until we see what they do in the rest of the window. I'm expecting. I've not heard anything. I don't know anything about not the situation, but from the squad, I'm sort of expecting maybe a couple of wins in those attacking areas, and then I'm going to judge them. I think it'll be difficult to judge them now. Obviously, it depends on where Jata is going to be. Newport, I think everyone's been sort of underwhelmed by David Hughes, obviously the appointment, but I'm quite excited. I think I sort of caught glimpses of the game, and I'm excited about the way that he structures the team, and I think it's a solid team. Again, probably a strong one who's looking to outmuscle you and win those duels. But I think it'll be an exciting watch, and I don't think they're going to be anywhere to where people think they're going to be. I think he's going to build a really exciting team. I don't think they're going to be playoffs or anything. I'm not saying that, but I am quite excited about his way of playing and the style that they're creating at the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, good stuff. Two more games to have a look through. Accrington drew 1-1 with Gillingham. A Walton goal, not you, Jack, Tyler. Put Aki ahead, and an own goal gave Gillingham a point. And instantly, I think the one thing that piques my interest straight away is 0 shots on target for Gills. Is this going to be another running theme? I don't know. This is the thing I've somewhat got my doubts about Gills. Obviously, we know that Gareth Ainsworth's there, and I think to get a point in the end, looking at that in those circumstances, with a little bit of fortune, I think you probably take it in the end. But yeah, I'd be questioning one or two things. I wouldn't hit the panic button straight away, but yeah, I'm not. I'm. Let's just say I'm not sold on Gillingham as much as some others are. Let's just put it that way at the moment.
I think for now I'm going to give them benefit of the doubt because they're new.
Maybe I'm probably being ultra critical here. It's game one, and I've not really seen enough, but it's that's just the one thing that just piqued my interest right away.
Oh yeah, no, I do agree with you. To be fair, I'm going to give them benefit of the doubt purely just because Vokes and Palmer Holden both not in that game, and that they were their big new attacking signings. So we've not seen their new look attack yet. And as we've seen with ours, it doesn't necessarily click straight away and all the rest of it. Although they did still waste a very big chance. Well, I think it's from a corner. I think Masterson somehow managed to send it on to another country from close range. So don't know how they didn't get that on target, or at least closer to the goal. But otherwise, they did look a bit poor going forwards. There are glimpses. I think, is it Gibrode? I can't say his name, but he had moments where I thought, you know what, he could do something here. But I do also think credit to Accrington. I think Accrington were surprisingly good that game. They took a while to get going, but when they did, they actually gained quite a bit of momentum, actually. And I think the goal was decent as well. I'm obviously not the biggest fan of like direct goals or anything like that, but it was a decent enough move and they were efficient enough with it. It's just a shame that they kind of threw it all the way at the end with sort of weird corner goal, own goal sort of scenario happening. But there are promising signs there, so maybe there's more to Accrington than we realise.
Yeah, I think. I mean, obviously, Gillingham are a team that struggled for goals last season, and obviously they started with pretty much the same attack that they were playing with last season. I don't think there's any criticism. I have to say, obviously, in the preview episode, I'm pretty sure I said a Gillingham win because they have Seb Palmer, Holden, and Sam Vokes. That was a huge lack of research from me there. Obviously, I didn't know they were both injured, which obviously comes to this result. I probably would have predicted a draw, given that they're not started. We'll wait and see when they come back. I still believe that they're going to do the business for Gillingham if they both stay fit. But it's wait until that time, and then we'll have a look at how they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, like I said, I think maybe I was just being too critical of Jota. I think I'm just more looking at the fact, their recent history. It's one game. Look, this is obviously a new manager's first full season. Things could change, and obviously when you've got injuries to Sam Vokes and Seb Palmer Holden, two players that could do very good things at this level, it's not hard to, might be given the benefit of doubt for a little bit, but I don't know. I think it's just the old thing that we're expecting loads from Gillingham. We do every year. Their side, on paper, they've got a decent squad of players, and they should have done better for where they have been, but they're just underwhelmed throughout. But take nothing away from Aki. Like I said, good finish. That it's a really good goal from Walton.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And that's the sort of thing that they'll need to do more of to stay up in this league. And they'll be disappointed on the goal, but they can take some real positives from that. I'm sure defensively as well. They looked half decent in that. One more game to talk about. No goals in it. Shrewsbury Bromley. A bit of both for both teams. Bromley created more chances than Shrewsbury. I think there's positive signs for both, especially for Bromley. I'm just more bothered about the tweets, to be honest. The two that caught my eye on Bromley's Twitter. The PA announcer is now asking for a qualified referee. Football is back, ladies and gentlemen. That went pretty viral on Twitter. And there was also another one. The tunnel stewards holds up the fourth officials board, and we have 17 additional minutes. If you have any plans this evening, cancel them. Unbelievable Twitter from Bromley's admin, I've got to say. But yeah, point apiece. No goals in it. I don't really know where you begin, really.
17 added minutes for a 0-0. Football was well and truly back. But no, to be fair, there was technically a goal. It was just disallowed. And it was a nice corner move from Bromley. Just Ben Thompson was still offside when before the final flick on, which is a shame because it did actually look like quite a good goal. But Bromley definitely have something about them. They were getting a lot of shots away. Again, most of them not on target. I think again it was 17 shots and only 2 on target. So again, similar problems there of strike force not quite fully sharp yet, but they'll get there, I think, especially with Denanga and Cheek up top. I think they were perhaps a little bit lucky at the other end to not get an Owen Evans situation like Barnet did, because Grant Smith nearly ended up with a very similar problem, not clearing the ball quickly enough. But honestly, aside from that, I don't think Shrewsbury actually had much about them at all. They had one headed opportunity, I think maybe one other sort of half chance. They really didn't have much about them at home as well. They are one of the sides I'm more worried about at this stage. I was kind of expecting them to put up a bit more of a fight. If Bromley's attack had been a bit sharper, then potentially that could have been quite a big scoreline. So definitely work to be done at Shrewsbury. Encouraging signs at Bromley.
Yeah, I think, as I say, with Shrewsbury, I'm awaiting judgment. I think the longer it goes on that we don't get a win, it'll be more worrying. Obviously, like I've talked about it constantly, that downward spiral. If they're struggling to get wins and it's going into September and it's going into especially October and onwards, then you're really going to start to worry. If they pick up a win, the sooner the better. However you do it, suddenly that spiral stops and hopefully, you can sort of regain momentum and go up the table. But obviously we're yet to see. So I'm awaiting judgment to see how long they go before winning a game. Bromley's case, Michael Cheek apparently had 0 shots according to the stats. If that's the case, they need to get the ball to him and he'll score. It's as simple as that. He's the one who scores goals for fun. Why wouldn't you give him those opportunities? Get the ball to him, and I'm sure he'll score goals in the next few games.
Interesting. Yeah, like I said, I think it's important to get that first win. You don't want to be waiting a long time to get that first win. You want to be up and running pretty much straight away. In any sort of result, positive result like that can do it. Like us, I think like Grimsby, that'll give us the world of good. But no, I certainly agree with what you said there. And there's no reason to suggest that I think Bromley will struggle again this year. I think they'll be more than fine. Of course, the future of Michael Cheek is still up in the air a little bit, but I think even without him, I think there's enough there to suggest they'll be okay again. Shrewsbury, I need to see more of them and more from them. I think probably a bit of both. Probably because I don't really know too much about them at the moment, but again, on another side, I'm looking forward to digging in a little bit more in the next few weeks. Let's have a quick chat about referees before we go, because they're in the spotlight again. And I know we've sort of left the big calls towards this. Salford got a pen, questionable. Grimsby got a pen, bit questionable. Swindon got a pen, again, bit questionable. Notts I can't even remember the Notts one. There's so many now.
Wasn't in the box.
Wasn't in the box, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was it. I know Kieran was far from pleased with that. Am I missing one? MK should have had one. I don't know how that's not been given. Am I missing any? Is that it?
I think that's it. But obviously, if anyone from any of the clubs has seen something, let us know. We want to hear how many more potential penalties we've missed.
The thing is, we're saying that's as if that's not half the games nearly.
Yeah.
Like this is the point. Why is the ref the talking point of nearly half of the games? We're in the first game week. Like, come on. It's just so poor. I think we're at the point where the refs just need to be consistent and accountable. Just both of those two things, because I don't think we're seeing it. I don't know how we are planning on approaching going through these performances or decisions, but I have so many words.
It was the penalties in our game that were the most baffling. I looked away for a minute when that ball was played. I think it was to Greeny. That ball from Tharm. The keeper sort of got there. It was just it looked like a comfortable save. Next thing you know, I sort of just looked away. I see the ref pointing for a penalty. I'm like, okay. I'm not going to say no. Of course I'm not. But I was like, what for? And I had a look at the highlight. I had a look at the replay back, and it's not pretty. I'll be honest. I think it's incredibly harsh. Personally, but later in the game, George McEachran gets absolutely manhandled in the box, and nothing's given. That's. I think there was another instance. I think it was Harvey Rogers sort of just ran from fullback, and got taken out in the box. That's more of a penalty than the one that was actually given. The ref confused me yesterday. Not that I'm complaining, because he gave us a bit of a boost, but yeah, it's the same old with refs, isn't it? It just sort of sets the tone, doesn't it? Of another season of terrible calls, because I think a lot of them were terrible, to be quite honest.
They were. The standards are slipping. It can't be like this the entire time. And all right, I think this is the third time, that we've had this guy. I think it was Matthew Russell. We had him for last season a couple of times. One for EFL Trophy game against Arsenal kids. Second one would have been Salford in January, and you guys will remember I was absolutely fuming with the performance that day. Only realised afterwards it was the same ref again. And and it was that penalty that was so stonewall. And even if it wasn't a penalty, the next closest decision to being the right one would have been a goal kick, because their man didn't touch it. Yeah. But the ref fully pointed towards the spot and then gradually moved his arm across to the corner. Just like, okay, cool. We'll have a corner instead of a stonewall penalty. That's fine. Many questions, and I've never seen a referee play advantage, and then as soon as the team gets an advantage, calls it back for free kick. Well, sorry, the team that committed the foul haven't got their defenders back yet, so you're gonna have to take that again. Sorry, he did that to both teams as well. This isn't just me saying, "Oh yeah, we were hard done by" or anything. He was just as bad for Oldham, and those just can't be the standards going forward. It really can't be, because it just ruins the game. It's as simple as that. It was. It was, and well, it was just the amount of times we were blowing for random things. Like it would be a shove in the back. Oh, depending on where you are on the pitch, we might give that, we might not. It was less competent official and more toddler with a whistle, to be honest. That's kind of just where we're at with the officials at this point.
Yeah, I mean, in the Tranmere game, there was a lot of to and fro, and there was lots of calls in the first half, and then there's tackles that shouldn't have been fouls that were, and clear fouls that weren't given, and you just want that consistency. And I'm sat here and celebrating the fact that we didn't get a penalty decision go wrong, which is incredible considering they're meant to be right, almost all the time. And I'm probably the odd one out, at least in our group. I think I'm the only one that hasn't had a harsh penalty within the whole of four-tier fever this week. But you want that consistency, and we need it. Whether they let more go, I'm happy with that. If we let more go, that's completely fine by me. I think it boosts the game. I think we fairly lucky in that it was quite stop-start in our game after we scored. I think when you're 1-0 up, you want that. You don't want the other team building momentum. And so it can help, and you're getting it for silly decisions where just play it on, just let it go. And I think maybe more lenient approach on everything could be better, but we just want that consistency. We need to see football. We want to see football. We're not paying to hear the referee blow his whistle every 5 minutes. We want to see proper football. And if they can let it go, maybe they should do. But certainly after watching those penalty calls, I think pretty much everyone looks very questionable at least. And I probably would have had different answers if I was the referee. But hey ho, I'm not qualified, so maybe I'm in the wrong there.
Oh, football! How we've missed you.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's a great welcome back as well to what we have to deal with. But yeah, they've got to get better. I know we keep saying it time and time again, but it's just going to keep as it is if nothing changes, and I can't really see much of it changing. And this sort of proves it. I think the weekend that referees have had in general have been pretty appalling. To be honest, I know we can't probably get everything right, but just some little things that, yeah, they're just not very good, are they? Some of the calls. No, I'm a couple of them baffle me. I think that Swindon one in particular baffles me. I think it was Harry Smith on the end of it. He's a big man. I don't think it needs. I think it's very soft. I don't think he should be going down like that. I don't know. A couple of others, but I think that's pretty much it. I think I pretty much said all I think we need to say. Other than one more thing just to end on, you might have noticed the Newport Notts County game started at the later time of 4 p.m. yesterday. It was confirmed that a Notts County supporter, was taken ill at the game. Notts confirmed in a statement, tweeted out that the person involved is in a serious but stable condition in hospital, and they'll provide further updates when it's appropriate to do so. And I think it probably just goes. It's best to send out all our thoughts and our best wishes to the individual involved. It's nothing, you don't want to see anything like that at a football ground, and we wish the person involved all the very best, hopefully for a speedy recovery. But that's where we'll end it this week. It's great to have the football back. We'll be back next week. Well, I won't be back in midweek. I'm not available midweek, so you might have Jack, might have Luke. I don't even know. It's probably been decided. You might have a guest. We'll see. We'll have to go from there. But let us know your thoughts. How your team did this weekend. I want to know. We want to know. It'd be nice to know a little bit more on some of the teams that I may have mentioned. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. Make sure you share this podcast around as well. we're ambitious and we want to keep growing, and we need your support for all that. And we do appreciate your support that you've given us. Make sure you download the podcast wherever you get it from as well. We'll catch you in the next episode. League Two is back. Football's back. Grimsby Town are back top. Not for probably long, but look, again, I'm reeling it in while we're there. We were pretty good at football yesterday. Long may it continue. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks once again to our partners for this episode, Sky Bet. Sky Bet understands the beautiful chaos of being a football fan. The highs, the lows, the heartache and the glory. It's all part of the ride, and we wouldn't trade it for anything. Not for everyone, for the fans. Sky Bet, 18+, gamble aware.